Ever felt like understanding the rules of the road or even just starting the process to get behind the wheel feels like navigating some kind of maze, especially right here in the Empire State? Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're doing a deep dive into pretty much everything you need to know about getting and keeping a driver's license here in New York State. We're going straight to the source, Chapter 1 of the official New York State Driver's Manual. Our mission, really, is to pull out the most vital info, demystify the requirements, and highlight some crucial details you might otherwise miss. Just making sure you're well informed, whether you're applying for the first time, maybe you're new to the state, or perhaps you've got a young driver in the family. So let's jump right in. To drive legally in New York, you absolutely must have a valid New York State driver license. Simple enough, right? But what's the rule if you're just visiting, or maybe you've recently moved here from another state or even another country?
That's a great place to start. So if you hold a valid license from another state or nation, you can generally drive legally here in New York State. However, there's a really important age restriction. If you're under 16, you just cannot drive in New York State, period, even if your home state or country allows it. And if you've made New York your permanent home, well, the clock starts ticking.
Yeah.
You have just 30 days from becoming a resident to turn in your out-of-state license and get a New York one.
30 days. Wow, that's a tight window.
It is.
And what about holding licenses from more than one place? Is that ever okay?
For standard driver licenses, no. It's generally illegal to hold both a New York license and one from another state at the same time. What's particularly critical, though, and this is under both federal and state law, is holding more than one commercial driver license, a CDL. That's a definite no-no.
Okay. And tampering with a license, like
Yeah.
trying to change information on it yourself.
Oh, that's not just discouraged. It's a serious crime. Absolutely. Any alteration or forgery of a motor vehicle document, including your driver license, well, that can lead to immediate suspension or revocation and, potentially serious criminal prosecution, fines, even imprisonment. The DMV takes the integrity of these documents very, very seriously.
Right. Speaking of integrity, let's talk about the different types of licenses. It's not just a single license for everyone, is it?
No, far from it. While commercial licenses, CDLs, those are for operating the really large vehicles, carrying lots of passengers or transporting hazardous materials. Vehicles typically over 26,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR.
GVWR.
Right. But this chapter, Chapter 1, it primarily details the non-commercial options, which is likely what most people listening are interested in.
Okay, so what are these non-commercial types?
Well, the most common is the standard operator, Class D. Then you got junior versions like Class DJ and Class MJ for motorcycles. There's also non-CDL Class C and taxi livery Class E. Each one is tied to different age minimums and specific vehicle types or, weight limits you're allowed to drive or tow.
I've also heard about licenses needing to be different now for things like flying domestically. What's that all about?
Yes, that's the push towards enhanced driver licenses, EDL, and real ID compliant documents. And here's a key date for you, starting May 7, 2025.
2025. Okay.
If you plan to use your state-issued ID to board a domestic flight within the U.S., or maybe enter certain federal facilities like military bases, it must be either a real ID or an EDL. If your license was issued after October 30, 2017, and it isn't one of these, it'll actually say right on it, not for federal purposes.
So if you just need it for driving, that not for federal purposes license is okay?
Exactly. It's perfectly valid for driving, standard identification within the state. It only impacts those specific federal uses, like air travel.
Okay. Is there a special category for people driving like large RVs or maybe big U-Hauls?
Yes, there is. The manual mentions the personal use vehicle R endorsement.
Okay.
This is required if you plan to operate recreational vehicles or those big rental trucks over 26,000 pounds GVWR or over 40 feet long. But, and this is important, only when they're being used to transport your personal household goods.
Okay. So for moving or big family trips.
Exactly. You can add this R endorsement to your standard Class D or E license, but you do have to pass a road test in that kind of vehicle first. It's a crucial distinction.
Definitely. Okay, let's unpack the process for getting your very first New York driver license. What are the steps involved? Seems like a bit of a gauntlet.
It's a clear sequence. You start with an application form, the MV-44. You can usually get that online or at a DMV office. Then comes the vision test and the written knowledge test. Once you pass those and pay the necessary fees, you'll typically need to complete a mandatory 5-hour pre-licensing course. And only after all that can you actually schedule and take your road test.
Okay, let's focus on those initial tests. Vision. That's pretty standard, right? What do you need?
Yeah, vision test, you need 20/40 vision in at least one eye. And corrective lenses are fine, glasses or contacts.
Okay.
The written knowledge test, that covers the rules of the road, safe driving practices, recognizing road signs, and, importantly, the laws about alcohol and drug use while driving.
And the passing score for that written test.
You need to get at least 14 out of the 20 questions correct overall. But here's a critical detail. You must answer correctly at least 2 of the 4 questions specifically about road signs. They really emphasize sign recognition.
Good tip.
Yeah, and the manual actually includes practice tests, which are incredibly helpful. Definitely recommend checking those out.
Okay. Now, here's where it gets really important for that first visit. Proving who you are. Identity documents. What does the DMV require there? It sounds complicated.
It is a multi-layered process, yeah. It's designed for security, really. So first, you'll need your Social Security card, the actual card. Then, for proof of identity, the DMV uses a point system. You have to present a combination of original documents, no photocopies that add up to 6 points or more, and at least one of those documents must have your signature on it.
So it's not just one or two things. You need a collection.
Exactly. They assign point values to different documents. Things like a U.S. passport is worth points, a foreign passport with a valid U.S. visa, birth certificates, maybe an old license from another state. Even things like utility bills or bank statements might be worth a point or two, depending on the specific document. Just add up the points until you hit that 6-point minimum.
Okay.
And you also need a separate document that clearly shows your date of birth. Sometimes one document covers both identity points and date of birth, like a passport, but sometimes you need separate ones.
Got it. So identity verified by points and signature, date of birth confirmed, and your Social Security number. That seems comprehensive.
It is.
Once you clear those hurdles, pass the tests, pay the fees, do you get your license right away?
Not usually, no. First, you'll be issued your learner permit. That's what allows you to start legally practicing driving, but only under supervision. Your first physical driver license, the plastic card, that will be mailed to you later. It's typically issued for a period not exceeding 5 years, and it expires on your birthday. And the fee for that first license, it depends on your age and your birthday.
Okay, so you have your learner permit. You can't just hop in the car and head out solo at this point, right?
Yeah.
What are the rules for practicing?
Absolutely not solo, no. With a learner permit, practice driving requires supervision at all times. Your supervising driver must be at least 21 years old, hold a license that's valid for the specific type of vehicle you're driving. So if you're in a car, they need a valid car license. And they absolutely must be seated right next to you in the front passenger seat.
Okay. Now, this is where things get particularly intricate, especially for younger drivers with those junior permits, the Class DJ or MJ. The manual details specific regional restrictions. It sounds complicated.
Oh, this is a critical area, yes. New York has what's called a Graduated Driver Licensing System, or GDL. And the rules for junior permits vary significantly depending on where you are in the state. It's all designed to phase in driving privileges safely.
All right, let's break it down. Region by region, what about New York City?
Okay, in New York City, which is the 5 boroughs, if you have a junior permit from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., you can only drive under the immediate supervision of very specific people. It has to be your parent, your guardian, someone acting in loco parentis, a certified driver education teacher, or a licensed driving school instructor. They must be 21 or older and properly license themselves. And here's a key point for NYC. The vehicle must have dual controls, meaning dual brakes.
Dual controls. Wow, okay.
Yeah. And from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., you simply cannot drive at all with a junior permit in NYC. No exceptions.
None. Okay, what about Long Island?
Moving east to Long Island, that's Nassau and Suffolk counties. From 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., the supervision rules are similar to the city, but slightly more flexible. You can be supervised by your parent, guardian, person in loco parentis, driver ed teacher, driving school instructor, or someone they have specifically designated in writing.
Ah, okay, a written designation.
Right. But that designated person still has to be 21 or older and licensed. Dual controls aren't explicitly required like in the city during these hours. But from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Long Island, it's the same as NYC. You must not drive with a junior permit.
Okay. And then everywhere else, upstate.
Finally, upstate, which covers all the other counties in New York State. From 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., the rule is broader. You can drive under the immediate supervision of any licensed driver who is age 21 or older. So it doesn't have to be a parent or instructor during daytime hours.
More freedom there, relatively speaking.
A bit more, yeah. But then from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., the rule tightens up considerably. During those night hours upstate, supervision must be only by your parent, guardian, person in loco parentis, driver education teacher, or driving school instructor, similar to the daytime Long Island rule.
That term in loco parentis, is that defined?
Yes, the manual clarifies it means a person who has essentially taken on the role and duties of a parent with the actual parent's consent.
Gotcha. Are there certain places you're just flat out not allowed to practice driving, even with the right supervisor? Forbidden zones?
Yes, absolutely. There are specific areas off limits for permit holders. First, you cannot practice driving in any DMV road test area. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, don't want practice interfering with tests.
Exactly. Additionally, several major parkways and specific roads, mostly in and around the NYC metro area, are forbidden. This includes any street within a park in New York City itself, any bridge or tunnel under the jurisdiction of the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority, and the Cross County, Hutchinson River, Sawmill River, and Taconic State Parkways down in Westchester County.
Okay, good list to be aware of. And for junior permits, what about passengers? Any restrictions while practicing?
Yes, definite passenger limits. If you hold a junior permit, you cannot drive with more than one passenger under the age of 21 unless they are members of your immediate family.
Immediate family's okay, though.
Right. Or the other exception is if your supervising driver is one of those specific authority figures we listed, parent, guardian, instructor, etc., then the passenger limit might not apply the same way, but the supervisor still needs to be there. And, crucially, everyone in the vehicle must wear a seatbelt, and proper child restraints must be used for children as required by law. Also, with a junior permit, the only person allowed in the front passenger seat is your supervising driver. No friends up front.
Only the supervisor. Okay, so you've put in the practice hours. The manual recommends 50 hours, right?
Right.
Including nighttime driving.
That's the recommendation, yes. At least 50 hours of practice, with at least 15 of those hours after sunset.
Okay, you've done that. You're feeling ready. Time for the road test. What's a key requirement you must meet before you can even book that road test appointment?
Before you can schedule your road test, you have to complete an approved safe driving course.
Right.
For most people, this is the 5-hour pre-licensing course. You get a certificate, often called the MV-278 certificate when you complete it. Or, if you took a full high school or college driver education course, the certificate from that, the MV-285, also counts. You get that certificate and it's valid for 1 year. You absolutely need it to schedule the road test.
And just to be super clear, the defensive driving course, the PIRP course you can take later for points or insurance, that doesn't count for this.
Correct. That's a common point of confusion.
Yeah.
The Point in Insurance Reduction Program, or PIRP, is something you do after you get your license. The 5-hour pre-licensing course, or the driver ed course, is required before the road test. Totally different purposes.
Got it. Important distinction. Any special rules for junior drivers taking the road test itself?
Yes, there's a time requirement. If you have a junior permit, either DJ for cars or MJ for motorcycles, you must have held that permit in valid status for a minimum of 6 months before you're even eligible to schedule and take the road test.
6 months minimum wait. Okay.
And on the day of the test, junior drivers have to bring another form.
Ah, yes. The manual calls it the Certification of Supervised Driving, right? Form MV-262. What's that about?
Exactly, the MV-262. It's basically a log or a statement where your parent or guardian signs off, certifying that you've completed at least 50 hours of practice driving. And critically, it must specifically state that at least 15 of those hours were driven after sunset. It's their formal confirmation that you've gotten sufficient supervised practice, including night driving experience.
Okay, so it's test day. You're heading to the DMV site. What's the checklist of items you absolutely positively must bring with you?
All right, checklist time. You need your photo learner permit. You need your certificate from the 5-hour pre-licensing or driver education course, the MV-278 or MV-285. If you're a junior driver, you need that completed certification of supervised driving log, the MV-262. You also have to provide a vehicle for the test itself. And this vehicle has to be, properly registered, inspected, insured, and in good working order. Doors need to open and close properly. Seatbelts must work. And make sure the front passenger seatbelt is accessible and clean for the examiner. They will check.
Good point.
And if you drove yourself to the test location, which you'd have to do with your permit and supervisor, you must also have that supervising driver with you. They need to be at least 21 and hold a license valid for the type of vehicle you're testing in.
That list alone could feel a bit intimidating. What happens right after the test is finished? Do you know immediately?
The examiner will give you instructions on how to check your results. It's usually done online now. If you pass, you'll get access to an interim license document online pretty quickly. You print that out or save it on your phone. You keep this interim license along with your photo learner permit. That interim license allows you to drive legally, following the rules for your new license class until your permanent photo driver license arrives in the mail, which typically takes about 2 weeks.
Okay, so you get temporary proof right away if you pass. Now,
Mhm.
once you're fully licensed, are there optional courses you can take for, like, benefits?
Yes, this is where that DMV Certified Accident Prevention course, the PRP, comes back in. The one we said doesn't count for the pre-test requirement.
Right.
You can take this after you're licensed. It's basically a refresher on safe driving tips and traffic laws. And the incentives can be pretty good. If you're eligible, completing this course can reduce up to 4 points from your driving record if you have any. And it could also qualify you for a minimum 10% reduction on the base rate of your liability and collision insurance premiums for 3 years. That can be significant savings.
10% minimum for 3 years. Wow.
Yeah. And you can retake the course every 18 months if you need it for point reduction again, or every 3 years for the insurance discount.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about life with a junior license, the Class DJ or MJ. This is after passing the road test. Are the passenger rules the same as when you had the junior permit?
For passengers, yes, those rules carry over. With a junior license, you still cannot drive with more than one passenger under the age of 21 unless they are immediate family members. And again, seatbelts are non-negotiable for everyone, proper child restraints when needed.
Okay, but the regional driving restrictions, the where and when you can drive alone, those do change compared to the junior permit, right? And they're still quite different depending on the region. This seems like the most complex part.
This is absolutely a crucial point of transition detailed in the manual. And yes, the rules for driving unsupervised with a junior license are distinct from the permit rules, and they absolutely retain those striking regional variations. It can be confusing.
Let's walk through those regions again, but for the junior license, what about New York City?
Okay, New York City, the 5 boroughs. This is where the rule is perhaps the most surprising and restrictive for junior license holders. The manual is very explicit. With a junior license, Class DJ or MJ, you must not drive at all in New York City.
Not at all, even during the day.
Not at all. Day or night. Period. No driving allowed in NYC with a junior license.
Wow, okay. That's strict. What about Long Island?
On Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. From 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. with your junior license, you may drive alone, unsupervised, only if you are traveling directly between your home and specific destinations. Those are your place of employment, an approved work-study program, a course at an accredited school, college, or university, a state-approved driver education course, or while engaged in farm employment.
So only for those specific work-school-related trips during the day.
Directly there and back, yes. Any other driving during those 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. hours on Long Island must still be accompanied by a licensed parent, guardian, person in loco parentis, driver ed teacher, or driving school instructor. Then, from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., the night hours, you may drive alone only directly between home and a work-study program, a college-university course, or farm employment. Slightly fewer options than daytime.
Okay, still quite restricted, especially at night. What about upstate?
Finally, upstate, all other counties. From 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., you have significantly more freedom with a junior license. You may drive without being accompanied for general purposes.
So normal daytime driving is okay upstate.
Generally, yes. However, from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., the nighttime restrictions kick in again upstate. During these hours, solo driving is limited only to travel directly between your home and your employment or a school course. All other driving during these night hours upstate must be accompanied by your licensed parent, guardian, or person in loco parentis.
That NYC rule for junior licenses is really something no driving at all. If you are driving alone for those permitted work or school reasons in Long Island or upstate with a junior license, does the manual say you need proof, like documentation in the car?
Yes, absolutely essential. You must carry specific documentation if you're driving alone under those exceptions. For employment in Nassau or Suffolk, it's a specific form, the Certificate of Employment, MV-58A. Upstate, it needs to be a dated and signed letter from your employer on company letterhead with all the details, business name, address, phone, your name, license number, job description, hours of employment. For school or work study in either region, you need a similar dated and signed letter on official letterhead from a school official detailing the program, dates, times, location, and your info.
So you really need that paperwork with you.
Yes, this proof isn't optional. It's required if law enforcement stops you and questions why you're driving alone during restricted times or for those specific purposes.
Got it. And quickly, for junior motorcyclists, Class MJ, any passenger rules different from a full M license?
Yes, there is a key difference. A junior motorcycle license, MJ, does not permit you to carry any passenger at all, except if that passenger is your required supervising driver during the learning phase or under specific circumstances. And even then, that supervising driver must have the same class license and needs to stay relatively close, ideally within about a quarter mile and visible to you.
Okay. What if a junior driver from New York with all these restrictions goes to visit another state? Whose rules apply then?
That's a good question. The rule is you have to obey the restrictions of both jurisdictions. So you must follow New York's junior license rules regarding time, place, and passengers, and you must also obey whatever driving restrictions the state you are visiting imposes on drivers your age or license class.
Double restrictions, potentially.
Potentially, yes. And always remember that underlying rule. You cannot drive at all in New York State if you are under 16, even if you have a valid license or permit from another state that might normally allow it elsewhere.
Right. That under 16 rule is absolute in NY. Okay, so you've got your license, maybe you've had it a while, you're driving, life happens, maybe you move. What's one of the first things the manual says you absolutely must do regarding your license if you change your address?
You have to notify the DMV within 10 days of any address change.
Yeah.
10 days.
Okay. How do you do that?
You can do it by mail or online through the MyDMV portal is usually easiest. And critically, you also need to physically write the new address in the designated space provided on the back of your physical driver license card.
Ah, I got to write it on the card too. Okay.
Yeah.
And eventually, of course, licenses expire. How does the renewal process typically work?
Well, the ultimate responsibility is yours, to know when your license expires and renew it on time. However, the DMV does try to help. They'll usually send a renewal notice in the mail about 45 days or so before the expiry date, if they have your current address on file.
Another reason to update your address.
Exactly. And you can typically apply for renewal up to 1 year before the actual expiration date, which gives you plenty of time.
Now, this seems like where that real ID and enhanced license requirement starting May 7, 2025 really comes back into play for people renewing, especially if they think they might need it for flying domestically down the road.
Absolutely. This is a significant factor in the renewal process now. If you want to get a real ID compliant license or an enhanced driver license, which also works for federal purposes and allows some border crossing by land sea, the manual makes it crystal clear. You must renew in person at a DMV office.
Must go in person for those?
Let's go in person. You cannot get a real ID or an EDL issued for the first time by mail, by phone, or online. You have to show up with your documents.
And what are those documents you need to bring if you're going in person for a real ID? Sounds like another proof of identity situation.
It is, and it's fairly extensive. You need to bring several original or certified proof documents. You'll need proof of identity again, proof of your Social Security number or proof you're ineligible for one, proof of your date of birth, proof of your U.S. citizenship or lawful permanent residency status, AOND, importantly, 2 separate documents proving your New York State residence.
2 proofs of residency, like what?
Things like a recent utility bill, a mortgage statement, a bank statement, a property tax bill. The DMV website has a full list. And importantly, a P.O. box address is not acceptable for residency proof. They also take a new photo when you're there.
Okay, quite a list. So what if you don't need the license for federal purposes? Maybe you have a passport for flying, or you just don't fly. Can you renew the standard not for federal purposes license more easily?
Generally, yes. If you're opting to renew your existing standard license, which will be marked not for federal purposes, you can likely renew by mail or online, assuming you meet the other criteria. However, there's still one check. You need to certify that you've passed a vision test within the last 6 months. Or it can be up to 1 year if the test was done as part of a broader health exam by certain professionals. You'll usually need to submit the information from a completed vision test report form, the MV699, when you renew remotely. So you still need that eye check.
Still need the vision test proof. Okay. Any specific rules mentioned for people entering military service?
Yes, there's a benefit provided for active military members. If you enter military service, your New York State driver license can be automatically extended throughout your entire period of active duty and for an additional 6 months after your discharge.
Oh, that's helpful.
It is. But you do need to proactively notify the DMV within 60 days of entering service. There's a specific form for that, the MV-75 Notification of Military Service.
Good to know. Okay, just circling back one more time for anyone listening who recently moved to New York State. We mentioned you need that NY license within 30 days. What's the specific process if you already had a license from another U.S. state, or maybe a territory like Puerto Rico, or even a Canadian province?
Right. If you're coming from another U.S. state, territory, or Canada, you'll need to surrender that out-of-state or Canadian license when you apply in New York. You'll go through the identity proofing process again using that 6-point system we talked about, show your Social Security card, and you have to pick the vision test here in New York. Now, here's the potential shortcut. If your out-of-state license was valid for at least 6 months before you applied in NY, or if it hasn't been expired for more than 1 year, you typically don't need to retake the written knowledge test or the road test. Your previous license is generally accepted as proof of driving skill.
Okay, so you can often skip the driving tests in that case.
Often, yes. But if your license was very new or expired for a long time, you might have to take the tests.
What if you're a new resident moving from a country other than the US or Canada, say from Europe or Asia?
That process is more comprehensive. It's basically treated like getting a license for the very first time in New York. You must pass the vision test, you must complete the 5-hour safe driving course, you must pass the written knowledge test, and you must pass the road test. You also have to surrender your foreign license when you pass the road test. The DMV will typically destroy it unless you make a specific written request for them to hold it on file at a particular office. You can only get that foreign license back later if you surrender your New York license.
Okay, so no skipping tests there.
No skipping tests. And again, that under 16 rule still applies. You cannot drive in NY if you're under 16, regardless of your foreign license.
Phew. That was truly a deep dive into just the first chapter of the New York State Driver's Manual. We've covered, well, everything from the different license types, the steps to get your first permit and license, those incredibly detailed and sometimes confusing regional rules for junior drivers.
Yeah, the time of day and county really matter there.
Exactly. Plus, navigating the proof of identity requirements and the whole renewal process, especially with the real ID deadline looming.
It really highlights how much foundational information is packed into that initial chapter. I think understanding the distinction between the permit rules and the license rules, especially for junior drivers across different parts of the state, that's absolutely crucial. And the multiple layers of identity verification also really stand out as, a core principle of the whole system here.
So what does this all boil down to for you, our listener?
Well, it means the process, while maybe complex, is really designed with significant safeguards. It emphasizes not just driving skill, but also identity confirmation, and particularly for younger drivers, a very deliberate, phased approach to gaining driving privileges. The level of detail in the manual isn't just bureaucratic red tape. It really lays out the roadmap for being a legal and hopefully a safer driver here in New York. And maybe one final thought, something mentioned in the manual that goes beyond just the driving privileges themselves. When you're interacting with the DMV for applications or renewals, you also have the opportunity to enroll in the New York State Donate Life Registry.
Ah, the organ donor registry.
Exactly. It's just a reminder that those visits or online interactions with the DMV can involve important life choices that go beyond just your license status. It's something to consider.
Definitely something to consider. And remember, while we've tried to pull out the key information and make it digestible, the official driver's manual is always your ultimate resource for every specific rule and regulation. Please drive safely out there.